What's going on, everybody? Josh Callaway alongside James D. Jackson, Sooners Illustrated 24/7 Sports. At the stadium, where Oklahoma beat Alabama tonight, 24-3. Just a wild game. I don't know, even the most optimistic of Oklahoma fans could have seen this coming. A bona fide beatdown. As Brent Venables said himself postgame, there was nothing fluky about this game tonight. Oklahoma took it to Alabama from start to finish. The defense was immaculate. The offense had a very good, safe, steady game plan. They ran the ball at will. And, James, they got one of the biggest wins, at least in recent program history. The whole vibes of everything. We talked about it.
Yep.
You know, just what a win in one of these last two games, in particular this one, could do for just the vibes around the program. And it feels like exactly what the doctor ordered. We'll get into the specifics, but first off, just start there, James. This is a potentially, we'll see what happens in the future, but a potentially program-changing, program-defining win for Oklahoma tonight. Unbelievable game. They take down the Crimson Tide.
Yeah. There were so many recruits that were here that were really wanting to see a performance like that. So that was, like you said, the vibes are going to change now because of the way that OU performed. Because the way that they won, like Venables said, it wasn't fluky. They dominated Alabama. Like, that is something that's always going to be remembered. It was jumping around game part two. They just kept playing it over and over again. Yeah. It was like the time you beat Texas Tech, but instead of Texas Tech, it's Alabama. I mean, that's a big win. I was talking to a couple fans before the game started. We were in line getting in. One was pessimistic about about this game. One more optimistic. But they were like, I just can't believe the offensive line just hasn't, played as well as we thought they would.
Sure.
And then that game happens. That was the best offensive line OU's had all season long. I mean, to run the ball like that against Alabama, to be more physical than them, to have Xavier Robinson and Jackson Arnold run for over 200 yards, it's combined in that game, it's just incredible. That's a great offensive line play, and that was the difference. They didn't turn the ball over, and they ran the ball and played really good on the offensive side of the ball, like offensive line-wise, and you win games when you do that. That's what we've been waiting for all season long, Josh. Like, we've been talking about it. The offensive line was the Achilles heel for this team, and they played their best game tonight. You got to give them props when they do a good job there. So shout out to Bill Beatenbow and getting his unit ready for this game. I mean, it was great.
Completely agree. I mean, a lot of players, positions, really everyone on this team deserve their flowers for this game. I mean, they did pretty much everything they needed to do to pull off this upset. We talked about in the game preview. We talked about it all week. Every OU fan kind of knew coming in, you got to win the turnover battle. And they did. Had the one turnover early, Taylor Tatum fumble. After that, they took care of the ball. Not another turnover the rest of the night. They forced a couple of big ones, including another defensive touchdown in this game. They ran the ball. They controlled the clock. And the defense was just phenomenal in this game. Alabama had no answers offensively. And we talked about it again, not to just keep referencing the game preview. We talked about it. You can't let Jalen Milroe run all over the place. He couldn't. The QB run game was not a factor.
The first play. I could talk about that. Danny Stutzman.
Smacked him. Yeah, you're right. First play. That set the tone.
Yeah.
They had no QB run game. Alabama had nothing, and they got a couple, down the field loose. You're not going to stop them completely, but for the most part, they had no passing down the field at all. The Tide scored 3 points in this game. They didn't score in the second, third, or fourth quarters. There are a million stats floating around of last time Alabama didn't score the final three quarters. Last time they didn't get to double digits. Last time this, last time that. A lot of very long streaks for Alabama were broken in this game because Brent Venables' defense, James, this was their finest hour. This was the best performance defensively that Oklahoma has had as a program. I don't know how long. You have to go back pretty far. They completely dominated this game and came up with the big plays and the big stops all night when they needed to. Unbelievably impressive.
And to have it on this senior night, the way that those seniors that have been, so big for this program over the last couple of years. R. Mason Thomas said he almost cried just thinking about.
I don't blame him. I almost cried down here, man. These seniors, like you said, Danny Stutzman, Billy Bowman, DeJohn Terry, Woody Washington the pick to end it. Trace Ford was ever. They were all huge. Ethan Downs. They were all huge parts of this.
They all made great plays, and he was like, for us younger guys to make that. Well, he's not really young, but for those guys to make that opportunity for them to get another bowl game, extend that streak. He said, just looking at Danny Stutzman, it was just great. It was a great vibe having that opportunity because, like you said, it's been a tough year. To keep that going, it's wild. And can I shout out our podcast just real quick? We said before the game, the players to watch. I said Xavier Robinson. You said Jackson Arnold. And Tom Green said Eli Bowen. All three of those guys.
Those are pretty good picks. Yeah.
Made really, really big plays. And I say that because Danny Stetson was on the sideline in this game and said, I'll give $1,000 to the first person to get a turnover. I need it to happen. And Eli Bone was like, hey, it's me. I did it. I made that play. So it's good. He's $1,000 richer. Everybody got to laugh about that and things like that. But one-handed interception for him, jumping that screen pass and making that play. You talked about it with Kip Lewis's interception and his touchdown, but that play right there kind of it just shut the door on everything because it was the second half. There was the first drive for Alabama and given that opportunity, and it just gave OU the ball in plus territory. It was great.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Yeah, that. We've talked about it a lot this year. Brent Venables stresses the middle eight all the time. Oklahoma's been pretty awful in the middle eight. Not today. The touchdown before the half, and then to come out to start the second half when it was 10-3, just a one-score game. It was a great first half, but to come out and Eli Bowen to get that interception, then they capitalize on it, which they haven't been doing. They punched it in, and then Kip Lewis gets the pick six, and the game was, in essence, over. I'd say it wasn't literally. There's still some work to be done, but with the way that the OU defense was playing, they weren't going to give up a 21-point lead tonight. It just wasn't going to happen. They didn't give any more points into that lead. They just did all the things you had to do to win it. And it's funny because the start of this game was kind of same old, same old. Defense started off fast. Offense did some nice things, but turned it over. Missed a field goal after the trick play where Bowersharp dropped what would have been an easy touchdown. It kind of felt like this team is just snake bitten. This is what it is. It's going to be the same thing that we've seen all year. But to overcome that was tremendous. The defense, A+, obviously. Offensively, it was give Joe John Finley his flowers. The game plan was fantastic. It was exactly what they needed to do. They controlled the clock. They didn't throw the ball in this game, but they didn't really try to. They didn't need to. Only 11 passes. Jackson Arnold completed 9 of them. They ran the ball down Alabama's throat all night. You talked about it. The offensive line was great. Xavier Robinson, man, we talked about it. If they're going to burn the red shirt, you better use them. They used him. He was awesome in this game. Over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jackson Arnold used his legs. The offense, James, it's not something that's probably something you can win every single week with, just running every play, basically. But that was what they needed to do to win this game, and it was executed masterfully. Everyone on that offense deserves a ton of credit. It's been a rough year. We all know that. But Jackson Arnold, this run game, this offensive line, they all stepped up and were awesome in this game.
It just seemed like they tried to go away from just, we're not going to try to make these explosive plays and, these type of situations. Let's just dink and dunk and run the football in between the tackles and make the plays that we needed. Because Jackson Arnold, a lot of his runs, it was, a designed pass play. But it's like, hey, if that read's not there, you're rolled out of the pocket.
He was really careful with the ball.
Yeah, just go, man. And it was just like, don't turn the ball over and control the clock. Brent Venables said it. They wanted a shorter game. They didn't want a lot of possessions in this matchup going into it, and they executed that. They executed that as best as they could. I was shocked pretty much of how well they played.
I know.
Jackson Arnold made great reads throughout the entire night. And it's not just like not throwing the ball down the field and tucking and running. It was, reading those read option plays where he's, faking it to Robinson and taking it himself. Like that, that was
incredible.
A couple
of those that where he just sprung free, nobody there.
Yeah, it was like everybody thought Robinson had the ball a lot of times, and he was gone. So it was really good. His first rush was 12 yards for a first down. It was the first play of the game. Xavier Robinson's first rush was 40 yards. It's like right then it's like, okay, that's what's going to win this game. Like OU had proven 2 plays in pretty much that they were going to be able to run the ball against Alabama, and they did it throughout the majority of the night, as you said. It was phenomenal.
Jackson, obviously, the turnovers have been a major problem. Didn't turn over in this game. The fumbles in particular against Missouri were just, can't happen. Yeah. He didn't fumble in this game, even though he ran the ball so much. You could see every time he got hit, he was tucking that sucker. He was like, I'm not fumbling tonight, and he didn't. Give Jackson a ton of credit. This win, it's hard to really put into full perspective. There's a lot of layers to it. Obviously, they get to bowl eligibility. So in the short term, the streak is extended. They get those extra practices. Next week in Baton Rouge won't be the season finale. They're going to continue to play on. They will get an extra game and all that good stuff that you just need. But for Brent Venables and just, can you put into context at all what the win means? It's hard to do because, it's crazy because I think 2 weeks ago, when Tom and I were in Columbia, I was kind of at a loss for words for just how much of a disaster the end of that game was. I'm kind of at a loss for words for how much this one means in the opposite end. It's such a polar opposite 2 weeks later. But this was a massive, and again, potentially program-altering game. Time will tell, but man, did Brent Venables and this team and this program, this fan base, us, we all needed this in a big way. What an unbelievable game. Can you put it into context? It's really hard to do.
And that's why I called it the jump around game part 2. It's like, this is the game that you're going to talk about. I mean, us, because we didn't have the first one pretty much to talk about. I mean, it was before our time, basically. To have this type of moment where, Brent Venables has dealt with a lot with his family over the last couple of weeks. The seniors have their night, and then the freshmen, Eli Bowen and Xavier Robinson, have their break. I mean, it's just breakout games for both of them, pretty much. Yeah. Like, Eli Bowen was guarding Ryan Williams. Like, that's like
did a great job.
He did a great job, and Xavier had to have that type of game that he had. Like, we talked about it before we got on here. He looked like he did at Carl Albert. Like, he runs the exact same way. It was like, it's unbelievable, but it's not like a high school team in Oklahoma. It's Alabama. Like, it's crazy. So, I mean, all of those stories, all those moments go into this, and it's just like, man, it just almost unbelievable when you think about it, because there was no way you thought OU was going to be more physical than Alabama. They were going to play great on the offensive side of the ball, and they were going to run the ball really well in this game and not throw the ball at all. Like you said, 9 of 11 passes, and win that game by the amount that they won by. They held Alabama to no touchdowns tonight. It's just like, who would have thought? 3 turnovers for that defense. Woody Washington, Eli Bowen and Kip Lewis. We talked about it, but it's crazy. It's a crazy story. It's going to be something we talk about for a very long time. I think so.
Incredible performance. And it's a conversation, Texas game, last year or this game for probably Brent Venables' best win. You could make an argument either way, but it's up there. Very high, and it just, again, what an awesome moment. And you just, on a human level, you feel good for these guys. It's been a long year, man, for this team and for Brent Venables and obviously Jackson Arnold, all these guys, to get a win like this. Again, just on a human level, really cool. What about the field storm? Double field storm. The AU fans are not used to field storming. First field storm here in 24 years.
Yeah.
Got a little, as Brent Venables said, they got a little excited. They jumped the gun a little early, but they got them back off and they stormed again. I never really thought I'd see a field storm here.
Yeah.
It kind of takes the perfect storm, because if OU's having a normal OU season, it would probably feel beneath them. But because this year's been what it has been, and it's been so tough, and Bama's a top 10 team coming in here, it kind of felt okay in the moment, felt forgivable. That was something, though, that you don't really see. I think, there's 84,000 in this stadium. How many of them were on the field? It felt like all 84 was on the field. It was nuts.
Well, you could tell it was going to happen, because like 7 minutes
no
into the game, the student section, they had already kind of like come down, and they were in the aisles.
They're
like,
creeping.
Yeah, they're gonna storm. And it was like there was no way to stop it. The good part about it is all the players that we talked to, Danny Stutzman, Eli Bowen, R. Mason Thomas, who I talked to a lot about it. They were really excited about that storming. They had a really, really good time. It was like, that's something I'm going to always remember. I had a great time. And R. Mason Thomas was like, they probably could have got the field goal post into the pond. It's not that far away, because he was just making fun about that. But it was like, we were like, we reminded them back in the day when they did it, people got maced. So it was like, oh, okay, yeah, I see why they didn't do it. But shout out to them. So it was that was pretty funny. I mean, just it's a good night for the players, man. Like you said, it's just like they've been working so hard for this all season long, to have a win like that on the national stage. It was brought prime time game, so it's really good for them. It's really good.
Incredible. It's hard to process it all. Obviously, we'll be back on Monday for the Sooners Illustrated podcast, where we'll pull apart. We'll loop Tom Green in here. We'll dive into all the angles of this game.
Easy rewatchable.
Some of these other games I've put it on and watched like this. This one I'm going to enjoy to rewatch, because I got to see this thing again to believe a little bit what we saw. Oklahoma dominated this game. Just the better team straight up tonight. 24-3. They knock off Alabama 6-5. The bowl streak is extended, the second longest streak in college football. It lives on, and we'll figure all that out in due time. Still got one more game to go in the regular season, but a bit of an affirmation in the direction of this thing. They stood behind their coach, Joe Cilione, and President Joe Harris. They said, this is our coach. First game after that, in front of a packed house. The crowd was awesome. It was absolutely electric in this place. They were loud into it the whole time. And OU delivered, obviously, their best game of the year. That's not saying anything. And one of the best games in recent memory, and one of the best of the Brent Venables era, certainly, as They dominate Alabama 24-3. We only scratched the surface. Like I said, we'll be back on Monday for the Sooners Illustrated podcast with Tom Green in here. Full post-game reaction, both on the website, oklahoma.247sports.com, as well as on the YouTube channel from Brent Venables. Both coordinators, the players, Jackson Arnold, Danny Stutzman, among others, will be there for you on the YouTube channel. So get the full reaction from the team. They were enjoying this one.
Yeah.
Brent Venables was enjoying it. I highly suggest you watch it. A lot of frustrations and demons exercised tonight as Oklahoma, an incredible game. Any last thoughts? This was a fun one. This is one that I think everyone here will remember for a long time.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. That's what that's what it is, Josh. I mean,
yeah,
we've been going on and on about it because of how amazing this was. It was incredible what happened out here, Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium night. It was incredible. Like, we'll never forget it.
It's been a miserable season, but what a moment. What a moment. Oklahoma dominates Alabama 24-3. That's it for now. We'll be back on Monday for the podcast. As for this season, one more week to go in the regular season. Then we're going bowling as Oklahoma heads to Baton Rouge next weekend to close out the regular season at LSU. That's it for now. For James D. Jackson, I'm Josh Callaway signing off for the last time this season from Norman, Oklahoma takes down Alabama.